So I am going to call to order the Dartmouth Conservation Commission meeting for Tuesday, August 12th. It's 7 p.m. And we're conducting this meeting in accordance with legislation signed by Governor Healy, further extending the remote hybrid option for municipalities. She extended that option through June 30, 2027. The meeting is interactive, so there is a raise your hand feature at the bottom. There's also a chat feature at the bottom, and if all else fails, wave your hand or make some sort of motion so we'll know you're wanting to be heard. This meeting was duly posted and noticed in accordance with state law as well as the bylaws of the town of Dartmouth. That being said, we have a quorum this evening. And I've noted that some of the matters have been older matters. And I think, Donald, you were alluding to the fact you're catching up on some of those older matters. But if you haven't participated or watched the video of any of the matters that come before us this evening, you cannot vote if they come to a vote, other than a vote to continue or something that's sort of procedural, okay?
Right.
And I will just note, we do have a quorum, as I said earlier, and if Donald is unable to participate or vote, we still have a quorum, okay? So we will be sufficient for that, but it might make the vote a little tighter. So anyway, that being said, we'll move on to the administration. And our first is to approve the minutes for, July 8, 2025. May I have a motion to that effect?
So moved. Second.
A seconded motion.
I have a question about that. There were a couple revisions.
Yeah, we're going to get to that. Then I'll ask
okay.
if there's anything you like to add. I just want to get it as a seconded motion procedurally so we can discuss it.
Sure, second.
Okay, we have a seconded motion. Now, Donald, you did raise it by email, two items that you believed were inaccurate. And since you're the one who was supposedly quoted, I think you know what you said, and I think your comments in the email are well taken. Could you please repeat that for the rest of the commissioners?
Okay. Both of these regarded the conservation restriction matter. And let's see if I can remember these now. The first
one of them had to do
with
with the fact that you weren't asking how much the
acreage,
the amount of money to be paid was, but rather how many acres.
Right. Yeah. And so that my question was, what was the acreage involved and not the offer involved?
Correct.
And then the second change was my statement regarding $3,000 doesn't go very far. And what was left out of the minutes, I said, if litigation is involved. So $3,000 doesn't go very far if litigation is involved. So those were the only two changes that I had.
Thank you, Donald. Does anyone else have any comments regarding those minutes?
No.
If I don't see any, and I don't, I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes as amended through Donald's comments.
So moved. Second.
Seconded motion on the floor. Roll call vote. Donald?
Yes.
Megan?
Yes.
James?
Yes.
Nat?
Yes.
Richard?
Yes.
My vote is yes. That motion passes unanimously. The second administrative item is the approval of the field trip reports of July 22nd, 2025. May I have a motion to that effect,
So
please?
moved. Second.
We have a seconded motion on the floor. We'll do a roll call vote. Megan?
Yes.
Nat?
Yes.
Richard?
Yes.
Donald?
Yes.
James?
Yes.
My vote is yes. That motion passes unanimously. The final administrative item is to receive the minutes of the July 22nd, 2025 meeting. May I have a motion to that effect?
So moved. Second.
We have a seconded motion on the floor. Roll call vote. Nat?
Yes.
Donald?
yes,
Richard?
Yes.
James?
Yes.
Megan?
yes,
My vote is yes. That motion passes unanimously. We're moving now on to our field trip reports. The first is a request for determination of applicability, RDA 25-11, from Golf Associates Trust, care of Steve Giosa, who proposes to place 4 seasonal trailers on the subject property. Trailers will be set on crushed stone, and a new stockade fence is proposed. I think it should be to separate the area from the down gradient wetland resource. No grade changes are proposed. Work is within the 100-foot buffer zone to a bordering vegetated wetland. The regulations 310 CMR 10.02, 10.55, and section 360-2 of the Town of Dartmouth bylaws. The land is described as map 162, lot 13. It's otherwise known as 900 State Road. Mark, I'd like to hear staff's comments on this request.
Yes, well, this is a request in a buffer zone to a BVW. It is on a pre-existing lawn and gravel pad associated with the Caddyshack driving range and mini golf facility on State Road. There is no disturbance to any natural vegetation within the buffer zone. The buffer zone is flat. It's been graded. So there's really no change. It's an existing active footprint. It's probably been used for parking and other things over the course of the years. Staff is prepared to issue a -3 determination on this. And there are 2 conditions: our standard erosion control condition and the condition to install a stockade fence to segregate the activities from the down gradient wetlands. And this would be in accordance with the seasonal feature Halloween layout plan by SiteTech dated May 22nd, 2025.
Thank you. Does any commissioner have any questions? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion to issue a -3 determination with 2 conditions. The first being our standard erosion control conditions. The second being that the applicant erect the stockade fence as depicted on the applicant's plan dated May 22nd, 2025.
So moved.
second,
We have a seconded motion. We'll do a roll call vote. James?
Yes.
Nat?
Yes.
Megan?
yes,
Richard?
Yes.
Donald?
yes,
My vote is yes. That motion passes unanimously. Our second field trip report is a request for a certificate of compliance. It's regarding DEP file 15-1692. It's RCC 25-16. It's for the construction of a single-family home with grading and the installation of a well within 100 feet of buffer to bordering vegetated wetland. The applicable regulations are 310 CMR 10.02, 10.55, as well as section 360-2 of the Town of Dartmouth bylaws. The land is described as map 32, lot 28-3. It's otherwise known as number 7 Riley's Way. Mark, what is the recommendation of staff for this request?
Staff recommends the issuance of a complete COC as per the order of conditions. This was issued back, I believe, in 2002, if memory serves me. It's an old order that has, gone through several reviews and never picked up in a title search until now. The house, they're closing in a couple of days. The house is for sale. Everything looks buttoned up, everything looks very secure and as depicted on the original plan of record. So we are again recommending a complete COC.
Thank you. Does any commissioner have any questions? Not seeing any, I'll entertain a motion that we issue a complete certificate of compliance in accordance with the old order of conditions on DEP file 15-1692.
So moved.
Second.
We have a seconded motion on the floor. Roll call vote. Donald?
Yes.
Megan?
yes,
James?
Yes.
Richard?
Yes.
Nat?
Yes.
My vote is yes. That motion passes unanimously. We've concluded the field trip reports. We're moving on now to our public hearings. Donald, this may be one you haven't seen all of the meetings for. If I'm incorrect, just correct me because I don't know
Is
what you're
this
saying.
Smith Avenue?
It is Smith. Yes.
Yeah, there's still one video that I have not yet seen.
Okay, so I mean, you certainly can listen in on this and whatnot, but you're not going to be able to vote on it if we vote this evening. Okay.
Yep.
And it's a continued public hearing, file number 15-2763, NOI 24-53. It's on the notice of intent from Carl M. Furman for the proposed demolition of a single-family residence and soil absorption system and the reconstruction of a new single-family residence, soil absorption system, utilities, and site work on a barrier beach, coastal dune, both within land subject to coastal storm flowage and within the 100-foot buffer zone to a salt marsh. The regulations involved are 310 CMR 10.02, 10.04, 10.27, 10.28, 10.29, 10.32, as well as Section 360-2 of the Town of Dartmouth bylaws. The land is described as map 87, lot 20. It's otherwise known as 13 Smith Avenue. I'll entertain a motion to waive the reading.
So moved. Second.
We have a seconded motion. Roll call vote. Megan,
yes,
James,
Yes.
Richard,
Yes.
Nat,
Yes.
my vote is yes. That motion passes 5-0. And I see Rick Sharon is here, so I will turn the floor over to Mr. Sharon as the professional on behalf of the applicant.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and members of the commission. Rick Sharon from Sharon Associates here on behalf of Carl and Alicia Furman. Can I ask, Mr. Chairman, how many people will be eligible to vote on this if we vote
This
tonight?
one should be all of 5 who voted to waive the reading. So Donald did not vote. We have 6 out of our 7 commissioners here this evening. So it'll be there'll be 5 commissioners who are eligible for voting, which
Okay.
you will require to have a passing vote. You need 4 out of 5.
All right. Well, based on that, I think we'll proceed. We submitted some revised plans last week. We held them back for a bit because we're waiting to hear because we've been trying for a number of months to get a coastal geologist who was to be engaged by Mr. Furman, Mr. and Mrs. Furman, to review the site and give them some recommendations. And we didn't have much success with that. I tried getting Stan Humphreys a number of months ago, and he wasn't unavailable. But just recently, Mr. Furman was able to convince him to come down and take a look at the site. He has not yet given us any kind of written report on what he saw down there. We're still waiting to hear from that, but that's basically one of the reasons we held back on submitting our revised plans. We submitted plans last Thursday, which showed one change from the prior set of plans we turned in. We had tried to retain a small area between the existing house and the traveled way of Beach Avenue. It's about 750 square feet of sandy area with existing shrubs and beach grass. And in an effort to try to retain that, we had increased the slope because we're still trying to get 4 feet of fill into the house, as you're aware. we had increased the slope to a 1 and 4 slope. We were advised by Race when they reviewed that plan that they disagreed with that. And in order for us to retain their opinion that they had previously stated that there would be no adverse effects from adding 4 feet of fill, we were advised by Race to bring that back to what the prior grades were, which were closer to a 1 and 6 slope on the seaward side of the house. So that's the primary change in the plan. The other change would be as a result of Rebecca Haney's comments. She brought up Appendix G, which is a portion of the Massachusetts State Building Code amendments, which literally prohibits any type of enclosure underneath a home on a dune. It specifically applies to dunes. And this was an area where we were unaware of the prohibition of even insect screening is not allowed under Appendix G. So it's a pretty severe appendix. We don't see any way to refute that. So at this point, we have taken that note off of our plans, and there will be no. We have proposed louvers, which is one of the things which FEMA's TB5 suggests as something which is as opposed to breakaway walls. But TB5 also allows lattice work, insect screening, and louvers in lieu of breakaway walls, but in effect, all of them would constitute an enclosure. So as a result of the Appendix G, we've withdrawn that portion of the design on the foundation. I would say also that we had a number of things we proposed. We submitted a supplement to our previous narrative, just going over several things on the lot. And I don't know whether I want to belabor this meeting with that. If you wish, I can go through the high points of that if people haven't had an opportunity to read it. But this was a supplement to the narrative issued on August the 6th.
Would that be the, I'm trying to find the date here. I did read a letter that I believe was labeled supplement from you. I'm just trying to find the date to make sure.
Should be
August
August
6th,
6th.
It says, yeah, I see where it says regarding supplement to narrative for notice of intent to file. And it looks like it might be dated August 6th.
That's what it's dated, August 6th.
Okay,
Right,
so,
that's the one.
all right. So yeah, I've read it. I've also read the memo that you're alluding to from Ms. Haney. Frankly, I've read all the documentation in this file. Just so you know, Rick, Mark, when he sends out our agendas, etc., he sends all the materials relative to the filings so the commissioners could review them in advance of the meeting. And I do take advantage of that because otherwise I'd be lost in the weeds on some of the presentations. So I know but if this is your presentation, I don't want to cut you short or truncate it. So if you want to go through and highlight the salient points you think we need to know, you're certainly welcome to reiterate it verbally. I just don't want to have it repeated like 6 times, but I think once would be okay with me.
I'll keep it to 1, I promise.
Okay.
We going through here on page 1, we'd indicated initially the existing house has the beach grass area that I mentioned to you earlier. That's about 12% of the total lot area. The proposal, after we've added the fill and constructed the new house, the reconstruction of the house would be to have over 40% of the lot, which is currently lawn area, also replanted so that it mimics natural conditions with beach grass and a number of plantings as was previously submitted on a planting plan by Davis Land Design, a number of plants that are very habitat friendly to wildlife. If you recall, we had early on in this thing, we had been given clearance from the natural heritage people as far as endangered species, but the question had been brought up about what about the non-endangered species? And here's an effort was made here earlier on, several meetings back to try to increase habitat for native species in that area. So I won't belabor that anymore. But there is a big increase in the amount of vegetation being added to that lot because this lot for over 40 years has had a lawn on it. Okay, and I think perhaps going back longer than that, we have a house that goes back 120 years on this property, and believe the lawn is extremely well established on that property. And just going beyond that, our project, of course, is to remove the existing two-story house built approximately 1905, plus the existing freestanding garage and a stone wall that lies between the two of them, all of which are grade level structures, which are definitely impediments to the flow of stormwater running across this property. A proposal is to put a new building, actually 9% less structural area than the existing buildings. And that building will be elevated on open piles. And even with the 4 feet of fill that we're proposing, there's still 10 feet of clearance underneath that building for storm waves to pass underneath the house without obstruction. We also had mentioned as an indication that this type of foundation is the approved foundation. We had mentioned the DEP matrix, and that matrix, we had a note, an email from Mr. Carlson at DCR indicating that, oh, that matrix is outdated. It was, in fact, I think Rebecca Haney also mentioned this. It was produced back in during the 7th edition of the building code. However, there's been no changes between the 7th, 8th, and 9th code, no effective changes that would change anything within the matrix. And Mr. Carlson, in fact, indicated that they were just now making revisions to this matrix for the 10th edition of the code, which went into full effect July 1st. Because the 10th edition does in fact have changes in the elevations of structures in both the A zone and the V zone. So those changes being made, but we'd have to say that our building is still acceptable under the matrix. I should note here that we had submitted plans to the permit portal to the building department. The foundation plans were submitted under the 9th edition. So that's the way the building code is written. The applicable code is the code that's in effect at the time of submission of the plans. So this building is under the 9th edition, not the 10th. So we submit to you that the matrix is in fact accurate, and that DEP would not be proposing or recommending types of designs on barrier beaches on a dune that would cause structural damage or would cause adverse effects to the dune. So we feel the building itself does not create a problem because of the means of construction, the type of construction that's proposed. The 4 feet of fill was something which initially was refuted by Mr. Carlson, and after some review, he agreed that 4 feet of fill is in fact allowed, subject to an analysis by an engineering firm of the wave dynamics to be sure that there's no adverse effects that are arising from it. Here we have we had Race Coastal Engineering prepared those studies and submitted those. We have two reports that were submitted by them. There was a third one which has to do simply with their advice on the slopes, returning the slopes back. And I stupidly didn't turn it in by Thursday at noontime. It went in Friday morning, but that one is on the record at any rate, indicating that they advised us to go back to the lesser slope on the seaward side in order to maintain their analysis that there was no adverse effect. So those items basically have both the addition of the fill and the construction of the house are basically have no adverse effect based upon based upon the race analysis and based upon the matrix from DEP. Basically, I would say if we were to just summarize it all, we're going to say the proposed project reduces the house footprint by 9%, less than the current house. We have plantings of beach grass and native plantings we've added to replace current lawn grasses to create a more wildlife-friendly habitat. The foundation design conforms to the provisions of the building code with respect to Appendix G. And basically, we feel that this project is in conformance for the types of resource areas that it's in. I mentioned earlier about my clients hiring Stan Humphreys to do some analysis, and you're going to say, well, gee, it's kind of late in the game to do that. Well, it took us a long time to get somebody who was available to do that. But I think also my clients have felt somewhat discriminated against based upon what they saw as the lack of any of these issues being brought up when their neighbors were allowed to rebuild a house right across the street from them. I know from previous experience with Rebecca Haney that the rules for the dunes apply also, in her opinion, to anything within 100 feet of it. Anything within the buffer zone is also subject to the same rules. And yet we have a house right across the street from them that was allowed to add over 5 feet of fill. It has walls on the lower level. I'm not even sure if they're breakaway. There's so much fill up against them. I don't see how they could be breakaway. They have hardscape everywhere on their property. They were subject to none of the restrictions that my clients have agreed to do on this plan. So we're offering this as what we think is a good solution to try to do redevelopment on this property, and we ask that you approve it.
Thank you. I just have a few questions and a comment before I ask for staff's comments. My comment is, I understand your client's frustration with what they view as a neighbor getting to do what they can't do. And it is not due to discrimination, but I will point out that the case law in Massachusetts is replete, stating that because a board or commission makes a mistake, they're not required to perpetuate that mistake with future filings. So perhaps that one slipped through the cracks. I don't even know if I was involved in it. I don't think I was. I think it was predating my time. But if I was, mea culpa, because at that point, it probably slipped through the cracks. But I will tell you this, it's not based on who you are when you come before this commission. I don't care if you're the wealthiest person in the United States or the poorest person in the United States. I don't care if you're somebody I like or somebody I dislike. I look at the facts, I apply the facts to the regulations, and I make a decision, and I try to be consistent in my decision making. So it is not a matter of being prejudicial. It is not a matter of deciding we're going to show Mr. Furman a thing or two. We're trying to find a solution which is in keeping with the regulations and the facts that we're presented with. And that's it, simply put. So I just wanted that comment to be out there, because we try to bend over backwards to treat every applicant the same way. And if somebody slipped one over on us, shame on us. But we're not required to make that same mistake twice. I just wanted to be clear on that. But I want to also
can I say, Mr. Chairman, I respect that. However, we're not coming in and asking to do what the neighbors did. We're not asking you to make the same mistake twice. We're simply asking you to approve a plan that we feel actually suits the regulations.
I understand that, but when you said your clients felt that they were being treated prejudicially, I kind of, it ruffled my feathers a bit, because we tried very hard at this commission to be fair to every applicant. And from what I've seen in the way we've treated people here, we've tried to hear everyone's point of view. We've gone above and beyond, bringing in the state to try to help guide us. Not just flying by the seat of our pants, because we want to get it right. And that's not a matter of having it in for Mr. and Mrs. Furman or loving them. It doesn't really matter. What matters is what the facts are, what the regs are, what the law is. And that's what I want to be emphasized, because if they feel they've been prejudiced and they've been treated unfairly and differently, I just want to let them know through this meeting that is the furthest thing from what we tried to do. And we made a conscious effort, not just with this case, but with every case that comes before us, not to prejudge it based on who the applicant is or where the project is, but to listen carefully to what the presentations are, to read carefully what's been submitted, to read carefully the regulations and the laws applicable to the project, and then to make an impartial decision based on those. And that's the MO I intend to follow in this case, as I have, frankly, in every case I've sat on this commission. Now, it doesn't mean I'm always right. I mean, I'm fallible, okay? But it's not because I don't like somebody or because I don't like a project. It's because I look at things and say, have I been convinced that the regulations, the performance standards have been met, and this project can be permitted without detriment to the resource area or the buffer zone to a resource area? I'm very glib on that right now, but that's basically it. I don't care who the applicant is. It doesn't matter to me, frankly. Okay, so I don't know. The first time I met your client was the on-site and never met him since. I've never spoken with him since, so I have no animus towards him. I don't really know him. And that's just my feeling. And I wanted to get that out because I think it's really unfair to paint this commission as sort of being a prejudicial body that will decide things based on who we like and don't like. Nothing is further from the truth. Okay. But anyway, I wanted to get that off my chest because that was a bothersome thing. But I want to be clear. So you are in disagreement with the memo that Ms. Hayes, Rebecca Haney, excuse me, submitted to us, which was dated May 23rd, 2025. Is that correct? Or actually, I think it was a different date.
July 3rd.
July 3rd, 2025.
I think we are in agreement in her comments regarding Appendix G. We disagree in some other areas.
Well, I mean, I'm looking at her letter, and I'm just going to summarize the points that I had highlighted when I was looking at it. She says in her comments that the fill under a new building is not consistent with the requirements for new buildings in the state building code. We recommend the fill to be removed from the project plans. Then she says at another point, it's her opinion that the project proposal includes elements that adversely affect the storm damage and flood control functions of coastal dunes. She says on this side, she probably means this side of the water. Then she talks about other things, but then she also concludes, because she has a lot of other things, but she concludes that the proponents should be using the current 10th edition state building code for all requirements, as that is now in full effect. So if I heard you correctly, and I want to be educated because I don't know. So it is your statement that under Massachusetts law, when you filed the plans, the building plans into the portal, that grandfathered your ability to use the 9th edition versus the 10th edition. Is that your position?
Correct. That's correct.
Okay. I just wanted to be clear on that.
And I've spoken with several building officials, and they've agreed that that's the way the law is written. It's the code in effect at the time of submission, not the code in effect at the time of approval. Right. So
it's similar to filing a subdivision plan. How
very much
locks in your zoning at the
Yes.
time of submission for a period of time, obviously.
Yes.
Okay. I just wanted to be clear because I wasn't clear. So I appreciate that. Mark, I will now ask that staff give their observations and recommendations.
Excuse me, Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Mr. Chairman, you mentioned Ms. Haney's objection to the fill, but that objection came because of the first comments, the initial comments made by Eric Carlson from DCR, in which he said that only 2 feet of fill could be used, that more than 2 feet of fill was not allowed. However, when he was confronted with the full text of TB5, TB5 says that you can have more than 2 feet of fill based upon an engineering analysis that shows that there's no adverse impact based on that additional fill. And once Mr. Carlson responded to that, he then said that we were correct in saying that we could have more than 2 feet of fill based upon the engineering study. So I think Ms. Haney's comments were based upon the initial comment by Mr. Carlson, because she has told us she's not the building code person. She's the coastal geologist, all right? So I'm going to rely upon Mr. Carlson's second comments in his second email, which indicated that, yes, we were correct and we could have more than 4 feet of fill. And the 4 feet of fill that we're proposing is fill that's compatible, totally compatible. It'll be the same grain size as what's there right now. I think it's essentially could be viewed as a nourishment material for the coastal beach. This is what dunes normally supply to beaches, is the nourishment to replenish some of the beach that's eroded away. This would be an entire 4-foot reservoir of sand that can be drawn into the beach to try to prevent some of that erosion. There's another thing too we want to mention, is that the effects of beach erosion here are much different than what this lot's been compared to East Beach over in Westport, and there's no comparison to this. East Beach has no vegetation anywhere along the East Beach road, as opposed to this lot, which is completely vegetated with a lawn, a mowed lawn. In addition to that, it's got a sandbar out in front of it that breaks the waves way out ahead of where they hit the actual shoreline. So very much different situation than what you have on East Beach and Westport. And all right, I'll try to be quiet.
No, listen, I want you to be able to fully advocate for your clients and to present the information you mentioned that you're presenting just now, which is the differential between what we have on Smith Ave and what's out on East Beach. I want you didn't repeat yourself. That's new stuff, right? So
Thank you.
I'm okay with that.
I promised I wouldn't.
You did not repeat yourself, so I'm okay with that. Mark, I'd like to hear staff's comments on this, please.
Well, before I make any comments, I'm a little confused. I've listened to a presentation of revised information, and I'm looking at the revised information, and I believe the copy I sent to you, I highlighted a statement in the penultimate paragraph. We request a continuance to allow our coastal geologist to provide a delineation of the coastal beach and coastal dune. A continuance was requested on August 6th for this, and we're discussing this right now. Little confused. I did have a conversation with Stan Humphrey, and at the time he told me that he was not retained. I do have take a little bit of umbrage with the comment that it's been very difficult to get a coastal geologist. Well, that may be, everybody's busy. However, we are in our 8th month on this project, and we have been talking about coastal geologists and a functional assessment of the dune for a good chunk of those 8 months. To be called by a coastal geologist the week before the umpteenth continued hearing on this, it doesn't give me an air of confidence that there's really control on what's going on here and the comments being made. Having said that, I will go through my thoughts here as quickly as I can.
Well, can we stop for just one moment, Mark, because your point is well taken. Rick, I want to be clear. So what Mark is saying is there was a request for a continuance so that the coastal geologist's report could be part of the record. So if we don't have that coastal geologist report, that may be grounds for a negative vote. Do you still wish to proceed without it?
I really think the coastal geologist's input is needed to allay my client's worst fears. Okay, and I know you've indicated there's no animus towards him or his wife, and I accept that. But however, he's also forwarded to me the taped proceedings of the 3 hearings for his neighbor's project, and none of these issues were ever raised. And so he naturally has some feelings of, I hate to use the word discrimination, but he feels like he's been treated differently. Okay, let's say it that way. He's being treated differently. And so as a result, the request for continuance has more to do with trying to get some substantive information coming from a source that my client has some confidence in, based upon the man working for him, to give him advice directly to him. So that's the reason for the request.
I'd like to interject real quick.
My point is
I'd
this,
like to interject before we start.
I would if you have more information that you're getting that you think is information that is important for the commissioners to know before they vote. And obviously, we're going to hear we don't have this. At least tonight, we're hearing we don't have this. So I just don't want to prejudice your client by allowing this to come to a vote. If you were planning on bringing new information in, that might be important for us to consider in deciding it. And that's why I stopped Mark before he went very much further into his comments, because again, that could be very prejudicial, especially where you indicated you're in the process of retaining this gentleman to do the work. It would be a shame to have a vote that depended upon lack of information. So that's why I've given you the option. James, I see you've got your hand raised, please.
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, though,
Can I hold on? Can I just,
Well,
this will be
James
quick.
had his hand raised first.
This will be quick.
Yeah, but I was interrupted. I was
By
in the middle
me.
of a comment. Yeah, I know by you, but I like to finish my thought and then acknowledge James.
Okay.
Mr. Sharon talks about how nobody else was treated this way. I was not involved in any of those particular hearings. However, there is one vast difference in the structure that Mr. Sharon brought up. That structure does not sit on a primary frontal coastal dune. It is behind the primary frontal coastal dune. So circumstances may have been different in that assessment. I don't know what they were, but we are talking about the dune that faces the beach, that faces the ocean. There is a vast difference in the functionality of that versus structures on the back dune. There's a neighbor to the west who had a structure on the frontal dune. It got knocked down. They moved it behind the frontal dune to a site across the road. So, I mean, it's not apples and apples and oranges here. So these are case by case issues. I'll yield to James before I go on if you want me to.
Well, James, I'd like to hear your comment, please.
Well, I just, in regards to the applicant having whatever copies of these recordings or whatever, first off, I would like to see them, because it intrigues me to see the difference that the people across the street on a completely different lot, as Mark's putting, not directly on a primary dune, which I think is Mark's point, over and over and over again. I've heard him say it not in this meeting, but also several other ones in regards to that fact, because this fact has been brought up many times. So if the applicant does in fact have those meetings, or if the Dartmouth community people can somehow send me over a link to that via my email, that'd be great, because I'm interested to see how the applicant feels biased against, and how it feels sort of an animus towards them compared to the neighbors' meetings.
Thank you.
It's an interesting thing, and I would like to personally take a look at that.
I think if Rick, if you want to have your client send through you to
Yes.
Mark the dates of those meetings,
Yeah.
then we could possibly get copies or get links. And
Perfect.
I can send you the meetings. He sent them to me, so I'm happy to forward them.
all right,
Perfect.
that'd
Please.
be perfect.
And if that's a reason to request a continuance, that's a very good reason, James.
Well, I mean, we want to be.
It's up to
Look,
you.
we try to go out of our way to be fair to all parties. Okay. But in the end, we do have a job to do, and we can't please all parties. But we can be fair to everyone. We just may not please them. And I want to be sure that whatever your presentation is the presentation your client wants us to have. If that includes copies or videos of other meetings that he believes shows a different way applicants were treated, I welcome it to be part of the record.
Thank you. Okay.
If I could make one more point, and I'm making this so that Rick can make a decision as to how he wants to proceed. If I was to do a presentation this evening, I won't do my whole presentation, but I will tell you this. Staff remains unconvinced that the project is permittable under 310-1028-4. It is not an accessory structure. It is a complete demolition and rebuild on, over, and in a primary frontal coastal dune, a protectable resource under the Wetlands Protection Act. And we also are unconvinced that the project will cause no adverse effect to the on-site primary functional frontal coastal dune as per 310 CMR 1028-3. Okay, I have several questions. I won't go into them right now. If Rick wants to discuss them with me privately, that's fine. But I would say this, if push came to shove and I was asked to give a recommendation this evening, it is for those reasons that staff cannot recommend support for the project as currently proposed, nor has staff prepared any conditions for approval at this time.
Okay. So if I put the ball back in your court, Rick, would you like a continuance so that you can, we have to be clear. Do you have some idea that when you ask for the continuance, continue to what date? So you actually have these things in a timely fashion. Do you have some idea when that might be?
Look, I'd like to ask for 2 weeks. I don't want to drag this on forever. We've been doing this for a long time. You've been gracious to giving us a couple of extensions here. Give us 2 weeks. We'll see what we can get from Stan Humphries. If he doesn't produce a report within 2 weeks, then we'll proceed. In the meantime, I'll send you the recordings that James has asked for.
Thank you.
Well, that's fair enough, but he should be aware of the fact we can give 2 weeks. Obviously, that's our next meeting date, but the submittal date is not 2 weeks from tonight. Okay, it's going to be Thursday, right? Is it Thursday?
And then if you think it's better to take them, if you want to make it 4 weeks, then fine. I know.
Yeah, I just want to make sure because I know if this guy's all that busy, he may not be able to sit down and write the report that fast. I don't want to have you come back in 2 weeks and say
we would need a submittal by August 21st, 3 p.m.
Mm-hmm.
That's if we go to the next meeting.
That's for the next meeting.
For 4 weeks, which will be our first meeting in September. That'll give him more time to get his proposal.
Then I'm in agreement with that.
Mr. Chairman.
Okay. What is our first meeting in September, Mark?
I believe it is the 9th. I don't have the schedule right in front of me, but I believe it's the 9th.
Yeah, I don't have a calendar in front of me, so I can't. But we are the second and fourth.
The second Tuesday in September is the 9th.
Okay, so if we can, I would entertain a motion to continue to September 9th. The submittal date would be the Thursday before.
The submittal date for the 9th would be September 4th, which is the Thursday following Labor Day. Remember, we have a holiday weekend, Labor Day being the 1st, just for everybody's purposes.
Okay, that makes some sense. So, commissioners, I've been monopolizing here. I apologize. If anyone wants to speak, fine. But I think at this juncture, we will have before us a motion to continue this public hearing until September 9, 2025 at 7 p.m.
So moved.
Second.
With a seconded motion, roll call vote. Donald?
Yes.
Oh, Donald, you can't vote.
No.
I'm sorry. Sorry. Megan?
Yes.
James?
Yes.
Richard?
Yes.
Nat?
Yes.
My vote is yes. That motion passes unanimously. If you're having a problem getting this report, Rick, by that date, please call
Okay.
Mark. Okay.
Very good.
And Rick, if you'd like to have a pre-app meeting with me before that hearing to discuss issues, I'd be more than happy to sit down with you.
I'll be in touch.
Okay?
All right.
All right.
Thank
Have
you
a
all.
good evening.
I'd recommend that be done sooner than later, personally.
Thanks, Nat.
It's a good point. Our second public hearing is also a continued public hearing, DEP file 15-2794, NOI 2427. It's on the notice of intent from Noah and Heather Kaput, and I'm probably mispronouncing your name, and I'm so sorry if I am, care of Jamie Bissonette, for the proposed construction of an addition to an existing dwelling with associated utilities, plantings, grading, and installation of a septic tank and pump chamber with associated utilities and grading that's within 100-foot buffer zone to a bordering vegetated wetland. And the regs are 310 CMR 10.02, 10.5, as well as section 360-2 of the Town of Dartmouth bylaws. The land is described as map 42, lot 130. It's otherwise known as 475 Chase Road. I'll entertain a motion to waive the reading.
So moved.
Second.
We have a seconded motion on the floor. Roll call vote. Nat,
Yes.
Richard,
Yes.
James,
Yes.
Megan,
yes,
Donald.
yes,
My vote is yes. That motion passes unanimously. And on behalf of the applicant,
Good evening, Will Connolly, Zenith Consulting Engineers. Would you like me to share my screen?
if you think it'll help us, sure. Just so you know, we do, like I said earlier at the previous meeting, we do, as commissioners, get all the filings sent to us in advance of the meeting, but I don't want to interrupt your presentation.
Okay, so the site is 475 Chase Road. There's an existing two-bedroom dwelling to the rear of the lot, existing garage up toward Chase Road. There's a BVW that wraps essentially around the entire site. We're proposing a one-bedroom addition to the existing dwelling to the rear with some associated utilities. We have the plumbing being tied in to the existing septic tank, as well as some roof infiltration bed. As you can see, there's some grading and tree clearing within the 25-foot buffer to the rear of the addition. And we are proposing some mitigation plantings within that area. We also have the garage to the front, which is to be converted to a one-bedroom ADU. So we have a septic tank and pump chamber, which will be tying into the existing leaching field, as well as a water service proposed, which will run along the driveway and tie back into that proposed addition. For erosion control, we're proposing silt sock, which will remain in place until all disturbed areas are stabilized. And I think that's about it. If there's any questions, I'd be happy to try to answer them.
I appreciate that. I appreciate the conciseness of your presentation as well. Mark, does staff have any comments and recommendations on this application?
No real comments. I think Will did a pretty good job of describing it. There's really minimal work in our jurisdiction, and it's work that improves the subsurface disposal of sewage. The leaching field was overbuilt at the time when the site was originally developed, so the existing field has the capacity to handle the additional bedrooms. So staff really does not have an issue. I know that the Board of Health office was a little concerned with some proximity to the wetlands. We inspected the wetland line. The wetland line was put in the field by Steve Schmiel. It is very accurate. And I think that based on the discussion that I had with Jamie Bissonette of Zenith, they went out, they resurveyed, and they actually do meet the Board of Health concerns. I'm certain that based on discussions with the director that they're comfortable, we're comfortable. So staff is recommending a standard order of conditions per the subsurface system plan dated July 31st, 2025. I will note that Will did talk about a silt sock. Silt sock isn't good enough. Our standard is a wattle or silt fence entrenched with siltation fencing. So that is our standard ECD condition, and it will be incorporated in the order of conditions.
Very good. Does any commissioner have any question? I don't see any. I'll entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
second,
We have a seconded motion on the floor. We'll do a roll call vote. Megan,
yes,
Nat,
Yes.
Richard,
Yes.
Donald,
yes,
and James.
Yes.
My vote is yes. That motion passes unanimously. Commissioners, I'll now entertain a motion to issue a standard order of conditions on file DEP file 15-2794 in accordance with the plan submitted July 31, 2025, with the notation that instead of a silt sock, we're requiring a wattle or silt fence.
So moved.
Oh,
Second.
second,
We have a seconded motion on the floor. Roll call vote. Donald,
yes,
Richard,
yes.
Megan,
yes,
James,
Yes.
Nat.
Yes.
My vote is yes. That motion passes unanimously. We're now moving on to the items for discussion. There's no bills that have to be paid, but we have items for discussion and enforcement issues. With that, Mark, take over.
Okay, real quick, this is more of just a notification. I don't know if anybody's been down to Round Hill Beach. But the Public Health Department requested that Conservation allow them to put up signage along Moses Creek where it discharges into the bay. They have been, as they do every summer, doing bacteriology analysis for swimming beaches, and Moses Creek has been chronically over the threshold and therefore is closed to swimming. They put up small signs, I think about a half dozen of them, on a single tomato stake, so it wasn't that impacting. They probably put them on the dune, they probably put them on the beach, just to notify. There are a lot of kids that swim in that backwater, and it doesn't meet swimming beach requirements for bacteria. So just an update there. If you notice that they did come before me, and I did not think it was something that required permitting or involving the commission. It's pretty simple. I believe they will probably be pulled in the next 2 weeks. The sampling will end just before Labor Day, I think. So just an FYI. Mike, I'm going to turn this one over to you. This is the next discussion piece is the Lake Nokichoke invasive algae removal. Unless you want to take that out of order and we go through the
No,
enforcement.
I think that's the Lake Nokichoke invasive algae removal. I see, Paul, you're here.
Hi,
You can
Mike.
unmute
Yes,
yourself.
I'm here. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. I can't see you, but I can hear you.
Sorry about that. Apologize too. I'm a little bit under the weather, so hopefully I'm coming across okay.
Okay, go ahead. You've got the floor.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Chairman, and the rest of the commission for this opportunity just to kind of talk about a proposal for, I guess, a Lake Nokichoke invasive weed management program. This is something that's been kicked around. I know in the past, I've talked to Mike O'Reilly many years ago when the town of Dartmouth had done a study on the lake to evaluate recommendations going forward. In a nutshell, the result of that study was pretty much to propose a chemical treatment, which I obviously am not a fan for, and I don't believe anybody else would be a fan for that. A town, I believe, did acquire some funding way back in 2000 for that and never moved forward. We can understand why. So since then, a lot of the technological capabilities for harvesting the lake weeds, what used to be done a long time ago is just simply cutting, like mowing the lawn, kind of a method. I think the technology today is a better opportunity for us to start to hopefully manage the milfoil concerns in Lake Nokichoke. And I would say just one more thing to add to that. I noticed I've been a resident here for many years since I was a little boy and living on the Lake Nokichoke area. And I can tell you over the years, with the colder winters we used to have, the deep freeze would help, I guess, mitigate some of that. And probably that coupled with the minimizing of the runoff and the town sewer that was put in back in, like, I believe 1998. That all seemed to help. Over the past 5 years or so, we've had pretty warm winters, and we haven't had much ice on that pond at all. Up until probably last year we did, which still didn't help the milfoil, and we've seen it grow year after year after year as the weeds die off, adds the nutrients to the water, and they come back stronger the next year. And there's only so much the residents on the lake can do the hand harvest around the local beach areas. So with that in mind, I've done a little research, come up with, what does Long Pond out in Lakeville actually do? And they actually have contracted through a company that I mentioned in my slides, that actually is going to be doing the work, or is probably doing the work now, in Acushnet on the Lake Street Ponds area. And hopefully you're familiar with the Lake Street Ponds area.
Yeah, yeah.
So I think those are some prime examples of, I think, how that technology, that equipment could benefit what we're seeing in Lake Nokichoke.
And if you could just describe the company that you're mentioning and the equipment that is different than the chemical treatments that were required previously.
Sure. What I could do is I'm going to share my screen.
Sure.
Assuming you can see my presentation.
I don't see it yet.
Try something here. How's that?
Well, I got it. Yep, now I see it. Perfect. Thank you.
So just skipping on a little bit down, the company, they're out of Connecticut, and they actually utilize a combination of diving, which is a hand type removal means on small areas, obviously, and a mechanical eco harvester, it's called, for bigger areas. So instead of having a cutter system that sits out in the front of this machine, it actually has like a pinch roller system, which will actually grab a hold of the weed and pull up, pulling the roots out from the bottom. So that's been proven to be much more effective year after year in minimizing the continued growth of the milfoil. And that's something that Long Pond and Lakeville have been utilizing, and that we're going to be hopefully seeing the results of what's happening in the Lake Street Ponds project as well. This map that I have here in front of you now shows pretty much this is the west, I would call the west branch of Lake Nokichoke, divided by Reed Road, and then we'd have the east branch, which is heavily populated with milfoil, but it's a non-navigable water. There are some houses around the area of the east branch side. It is very, I'd say, difficult to get any kind of an access unless you went through somebody's property with the equipment to get over there to do that work. But that's something maybe we can explore in a different phase if the commission thinks it's viable. As we all know, the town does own a little bit of property on Lakeside Ave that has easy access. The fire department has used it many times to do their practice and so forth, though I think they would have a heck of a time with the amount of milfoil that's grown in that area on the northern portion of the west branch. And that's some of the concern. It's been pretty much the northern area, anywhere I've identified here in red. As you get closer to the dam by Route 6, there's less of it, but there is a good bump out by Rachel's Lakeside. And of course, if you're familiar with Lake Nokichoke, oops,
Sorry about that. Try to zoom in here a little bit for you. There is a little bit of an island here, which behind that island is a navigable area that's somewhere between 50 to 75 feet wide, 3 to 4 feet deep. That whole entire area right now is, I would say, non-navigable by a powerboat or anything like that. And it's very difficult. I've been back there, even with a kayak, to try to get through that stuff. Very, very thick. And of course, in the wintertime, that kind of dies off, creates the muck on the bottom, which is nutrients to feed it for the next year. So this has been an ongoing battle. We see increasing growth year after year, probably, like I've said, over the past 5 to 8 years. This area in red that I've shown now is getting thicker and thicker and wider and deeper and longer. That's why I'm kind of proposing we try to do something other than whatever, local abutters can do by the shoreline. Obviously, it's well more work than anybody can get involved with to go out there and try to harvest any of this stuff. And I don't want to see people use pellets or anything like that, which it doesn't help the situation, because if the weeds die off, like I said, that just creates nutrients for next year's growth. So I really am convinced in the amount of research I've done that the eco-harvester mechanism is probably the best way moving forward. Hence, probably the reason why other ponds nearby have adopted to start using that. And Mike, I don't think you're familiar with it, but back in the 1980s, the town of Dartmouth did get involved with harvesting some of the late milfoil, where the city of Fall River actually went out and bought a harvester. It was the cutting mechanism type. That's only what existed out there then, which helped take that stuff out. But after about a month, all grew right back. So
Yeah, I'd be curious to see how it works, on the Acushnet and the Freetown property ponds, and whether or not it actually inhibits the regrowth. And I guess I got a subsidiary question. How does this all get paid for?
Yep. So that's the other $50 million question, right? So, talking with the state, obviously their recommendation, which I already knew was the best approach, was to meet with you first and the commission, to try to explore avenues. There is state funding, there is federal funding for this. Some of that funding avenues is what allowed the Lake Street project to occur. I would probably definitely need the assistance, but I am more than willing to investigate. I would need your assistance to, explore those opportunities. I know I come across a few federal grants that are aimed towards projects like this, but as I'd say a civilian, I work for the Department of Defense. But
You're a
as
civilian still.
yeah, I can't apply for those grants. That has to come out of the Conservation Commission.
I will be honest with you. I know our staff is kind of overworked at the moment, but I do see the need to try and remediate what is becoming a more unpleasant situation for sure, and probably even one that's choking out legitimate plants that are trying to grow in that area. So I'm sort of in favor of this type of a project. I don't know enough about the machinery to know what else it may do, what the harmful effects are, if you will, versus just the positive. I don't know, Mark, have you ever heard of this type of machine before?
Yeah, it's fairly successful. It's basically getting the plants out as opposed to just cutting them, which Paul is correct. It does reduce nutrient load. It doesn't eliminate it. And the amount of milfoil that's out there, it's not necessarily a 1 year. We did it and it's going to be all better. But I do have some comments that I think are fairly germane to procedurally how this happens. And I will acknowledge, I think it's a noble effort. Don't get me wrong, I'm not against the effort. However, in looking at the materials that Paul sent out, I noticed a couple of things. First and foremost, the property owner has never been was not accurately identified as I saw it. I might have missed something, but I don't think I did. Lake Nokichoke is owned by the city of Fall River. The water rights and the bottom of the lake. Dartmouth looks at that, even though it's a public entity, as a property owned by a property owner. This does not happen unless the city of Fall River, A, agrees to it and is party to the application because it is their property. Lake Nokichoke is a hot ticket item in recent years. The town of Dartmouth, I don't believe, can function unilaterally without the city of Fall River being involved. And when I say the town of Dartmouth, I don't mean the town of Dartmouth Conservation Commission. We're talking about public funding of a project on a property. Okay, so this would have to go through, I believe, the select board, and probably we have a grant writer in the assistant town administrator who could assist in preparing an identified grant. The last thing is, well, no, not the last thing. I have two other items. The Conservation Commission would need to permit this activity, regardless of who the applicant is. The town of Dartmouth, or the Conservation Commission, cannot authorize work on somebody else's property without their consent. So until Fall River buys into this, whether they participate in it, whatever the case may be, all they have to do is sign the page 9 of the order, the notice of intent, if that's all they want to do. But until that happens, we have no authority to permit this work, as noble as this work will be. Also, I do not believe that the town of Dartmouth necessarily wants to be the applicant. I don't know that the Conservation Commission can apply for a permit from itself. So it would have to be, I think, the select board or some other group within the town. If the town were to do this, I don't believe the commission has the authority to commit the town. I think that would have to go through the select board and the town administrator. So I have some concerns procedurally as to where this is. Paul may have done some research beyond and answered some of these questions, but looking at the paperwork, that's what I saw. I don't mean to.
Can I stop you for a second? I have a question, Mark.
Sure.
You mentioned that the city of Fall River owns the waters and the land beneath the waters on Lake Nokichoke. Would the Fall River Conservation Commission have to give approval?
No, because it's not in their jurisdiction.
So Fall River owns this property that's in Dartmouth?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, basically what they did was they dammed up the Shingle Island River to produce a water supply for the Westport Mills.
Yeah, and I think we had this controversy regarding the dam that was falling apart. And
yeah, that's yes. This has become a very complex issue. We also had the issue with an enforcement order that we had to include the city in because of docks several years ago. You know, we went in and we actually looked at the deeds. Mike looked at them and I looked at them, and this is the city of Fall River's property. And you know, they can do whatever they want that is permittable under whatever regulations, but the town of Dartmouth cannot go in. This would be like me going onto your property as the town and say, we're going to do this without your permission. It's the same analogy.
Yeah, Mark, thank you very much. We're definitely on the same page with that. And it's very similar to what the New Bedford, I would say, and Acushnet had gone through with the Lake Street project. Some of those ponds do not fall entirely in just one town, so um,
Yeah, but
similar.
Paul, it depends on who owns the ponds. Like
Yeah.
in Long Pond, I think Long Pond in Lakeville is also part of a water supply system. I don't know if it's owned by the Taunton River Water District, who owns the down gradient Assawamsett Pond. But I would think if it, they might, and it might behoove you to look at how that permitting went. Because if it was part of the water district in Taunton, it's their property, and I don't know if it is or it isn't. But it might be very similar because that too is part of their water supply system. I know it's an outstanding resource water, having done work in and around Long Pond. So again, it's how this gets permitted and how it's, if it can go forward, how can it go forward legally, addressing all property issues. I mean, we look at Lake Nokichoke like, oh, it's a lake. Well, yeah, it is, but it's not a lake. It's got certain issues that make it different than just your average everyday lake.
Yeah. So do you think?
I don't want to cut us too far short, but I've only allocated 15 minutes for this.
Sorry, Mike. I will.
But I do think, from my standpoint, and any commissioner that wants to chime in, you can. I do think it's a type of project that we could at least support in terms of saying we think it's a good thing. Obviously, we need more detail on how it's to be done if it comes before us to be permitted. But I think Mark's points are very salient starting points, like who owns it, who has to give us permission to move forward, or you to move forward on it. And then I think the process of funding it becomes even more complex than just permitting it.
Yep. No, fully understood. Should I, and I don't want to step on any toes, but should I reach out to the City of Fall River Conservation?
No,
I would
not-
suggest that you might want to reach out to folks in Fall River, who the owners would be. I mean,
It's
I think
it's
I
the
would
Fall
make it
River. The owners of the Fall River Water District. I mean, it's the city of Fall River in the care and custody of the Water District. That's who owns it.
So I think that's where I'd start, Paul. The water district, explain what you want. See if they will at least say, hey, look, we'll sign applications and things as the owner, but we're not going to spend any money to do anything.
Yep.
Let me give you that. And if they can at least tell you that they'll sign the applications, then you can start down the road of trying to get this thing off the ground.
And
You got to
also,
get the owner's permission first. I
they
think
will
Mark's right
probably
on.
have liability clauses for work on their property by somebody else.
Absolutely.
Yeah, well, yeah, I think your point was very well taken, Mark. You need to get the owner's permission before you can do anything. So, rather than putting the cart before the horse, let's get the permission and then we can move forward.
Yep. Fully understand this is going to be a multi-step process, obviously. That's why doing something this season is off the table, but I'm hoping maybe we can get something in place by next season, but only time will tell.
Well, you started, what is the old thing from the Wizard of Oz? You got to start from the beginning. And I think that's true. Take one step at a time, but start from the beginning. Mark's giving you great advice. Get the owner to say, I'm okay with this. I'll sign the paperwork. Now you've gotten yourself started in the right direction.
Sounds good. Well, I thank you for your time. I don't know if anybody else had any additional questions.
I have a general question. Is there any public access to the lake for boat landing, kayak put in, anything like that with parking available?
There's a boat ramp off of Lakeside. Very little parking, but there is a boat ramp there. There is a footpath off of Highland Avenue that goes down at the lower end of the lake, goes in from the west side. I will tell you that it is a very treacherous path. It's a downslope that washes out, and it's literally 100% cobbles and boulders and things of that nature. So I do not I used to frequent it. I don't anymore, simply because my knee couldn't take it. Somebody would have to carry me out. It's not a very well maintained access way. People use it, and there, if you're on Highland Avenue, there is actually a green sign that says conservation land right at the pathway. It's very narrow. You if you blink, you miss it, but if you're looking, you see it. I forget what address it's near, but it's in the first portion, like the just beyond the big the Roman Catholic Church, I think it is, on the right hand side. It's about a quarter mile up. There is a large house, large masonry house right before the pathway down. Those are the only two access ways I know of. There may be more, but
I
Okay,
believe-
so it sounds like there is some public access available there.
yes. And
Okay.
the Conservation Commission is in a butter, because the Interfaith Church land, which we procured several years ago, is open space under the care and custody of conservation. So we are also in a butter to the lake, as opposed, in addition to being a regulator of the resources associated with the lake.
Okay, that answers it.
Paul, thank you for your presentation, and good luck with your hunting. You're gonna.
Yeah, I asked him to call me. I saw him on the road. He said he'd do it. He texted me.
Tomorrow, she's gonna help me.
Paul?
Thanks, Mike. I think that was Richard talking.
Oh, okay. Mark, you want to go on with our enforcement actions?
Sure, and I'll try to run through these pretty quickly. 98 McCabe Street, I need a vote from you folks. I issued an enforcement order. This is the individual who seems to think that he can run a trucking operation out of his residence in a residential zone next to Buttonwood Brook within our jurisdiction without permits. He power washes, he maintains his trucks. He's also in violation of zoning. Both myself and the zoning agent have been after him for over a year. We had a complainant who chose to be anonymous for about 11 months. We finally got the complainant to come forward and actually produce for us some tangible evidence, which we have really geared up the enforcement on. And the report today from the zoning agent was that the vehicles had been removed and there was no visual evidence of any kind of construction activity or maintenance activity or power washing taking place. I've also reached out to town administrator and town council. This problem has pervaded through several departments in the town. So we're trying to get a handle on it, and I've requested town council to get involved, and right now the town administrator is considering that because this gentleman we've spoken to, he's misled us for over 12 months, and we finally caught him red-handed, and his excuses were fairly lame. So I issued the enforcement order as I am allowed to do, but I need the commission to verify that action. So I'd ask for a vote.
Well, we can have a discussion on it. Does anybody have any comments about this? I think the material
do.
is. Please go right ahead.
My question is, when someone is so egregious with what this guy has been doing for so long, and we send an enforcement action, what is our, I guess what my question is with this enforcement action, can we send a fine? Because to be misled and to have this guy literally laugh at you, Mark. Like you were trying, like this guy. If this guy had done this to me, I would have personally had like a $10,000 fine on it, $12,000, $1,000 for every month that he's been doing it. You know, is it like what is the pot? Like what is our ability to levy that automatically without having to deal with having to go through town council and everything like that?
Let me cut right to the chase on that, James. No matter what we have in our bylaws that allow us to fine people, you go to collect on the fines, it has to go through town council.
Yeah.
Okay? So town council gets involved. And the problem with it is inevitably one of cost. So the town is paying town council on a per hour basis, regardless of the outcome of the case. And they'd rather spend the money on the big things as they see it than on the things that probably don't even bring in enough money to pay for town council.
Yeah.
So ultimately, the economic loser is the town of Dartmouth citizens, because the taxpayers are paying money for town council, and even the amount of fines would be a fraction of the cost of town council. So the only way you could prevail and actually recoup that is if there's provision for the town to recoup its legal fees. Now, you know, in my experience with the court systems, they hate to do that. They really hate to do that because they believe that everybody's entitled to have their day in court and they shouldn't be chilled by the prospect of having to pay for the other guy's legal fees. That's a lot different than the English, Great Britain, okay, where you throw a caution on it and that says, go ahead and sue us, but if you lose, you're paying for all the defense costs.
Yeah.
All right. And that causes them to have fewer number of cases.
Yeah.
So, you know, not just Massachusetts, but United States judges will give it to you if you have it by way of a contract or statute. Other than that, to try to get your legal fees, even in egregious situations, is sometimes difficult. Now, we have prosecuted people to the point where they've lost their properties. We're about the only conservation commission in the state that's done that. Okay. So we have actually taken it to about the highest level you can. And the party who was aggrieved lost his property to auction.
Yeah.
It's like a foreclosure in the town. Came Coco on it. We got all the legal fees paid for, all the fines were paid. But that's one instance, and I don't know how long have I been on this, 20 some odd years. Other than that, you know, the town will take matters up, but I think in this case, if I'm hearing everything correctly, and we're just looking at it as a conservation commission.
Yeah.
You know, Randy Bassett and the crew over at the building department, they have to put a request in too. We have no right to enforce zoning or to bring zoning up or threaten with zoning issues. We can't do anything with Board of Health. They got to ask the same thing. So the town should really be looking through the administrator to try to figure out what are the affected departments and commissions in the town, get all of them together to request input of the town council, and then maybe it becomes more worthwhile for the town to spend the money. Okay. But you know, I don't know. That's a long-winded way to try to answer your question, but it's one.
No, it's fine. I just wanted Mark to know that I was upset for him.
Yeah, I mean,
and
I'll tell you this one. That's why I've kind of been an advocate. Maybe somebody would say a harpy, but an advocate for when there's a violation, act quickly, pursue it quickly, don't dilly-dally, because it doesn't get better.
Yeah.
Okay, it's only going to get worse. And for most of the violators, not all, because we've had violators that once it's been brought to their attention have immediately pled mea culpa, fixed the problem. Others, you had to kick them a little bit. And some are like this person, apparently. As long as I'm not getting hit in the pocketbook, I'm going to keep doing it.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
And the other issue, to piggyback on what Mike said, is under state law, we can fine him $300 a day. But that means that I have to write a written ticket every day that he's in violation. I'm sorry, there are, and when those tickets come due in court, chances are, and Mike, you could speak to this, the judges do not enforce, if they enforce anything, it's a far reduced number. It's
Yeah.
never the full amount. So, I mean, from a department head point of view, from a department point of view, it's really not worth the effort in the long run. You know, we've caught him, and really, we issued the enforcement order because we had tangible evidence, and now it's a question of, and I've requested, I want town council to bring this guy to court and issue an injunction on him. Now,
Yeah.
it's up to them whether they want to do that or not. I haven't talked to them specifically because I have to go through the administrator. We're trying to make headway. Like I said, it's been reported that the vehicles have been removed and the equipment has been removed. Does it come back? Time will
Yeah.
tell. You know, we don't know.
And to your point, James, I want to be clear. If the court issues an injunction and this person violates that injunction, that becomes a much more difficult case for him because he'll
Yeah.
be defending himself from being in jail.
Exactly.
That's criminal contempt of court. They incarcerate you for that.
Yeah.
So, you know, that's your biggest club. Okay.
Yeah.
That's what happened to the person who lost his home. He got incarcerated a few times, but he got incarcerated for violation of a court order, not our order, a court order.
Yeah.
Because that's
Well,
one
like I
thing the
said-
judges really don't like, you see.
Yeah, no, understood.
Second one, and believe it or not, this is going to be some good news.
What? Are you kidding me?
Yeah, brace yourself, and it's enforcement too. About 2, maybe 3 weeks ago, I was invited to a site visit at the Francis site, Wilfred Francis, which is an enforcement action that's been ongoing for how long, Richard and Mike?
Oh, for the love of God, I think back when I was a kid.
10 years.
It's easy.
They have actually made some progress. They did, I don't think they did the entire excavation, but they did a good chunk of it. We do have wetland vegetation growing in a place where wetland vegetation used to grow and was under feet of compost for many years. So, town council went out with me because they were represented by council, and everybody was satisfied. They're pushing forward, trying to get the plantings done by the end of the growing season this year. That was the agreement on the ground, so we'll see how far that goes. But
Fingers are
even if
crossed.
they fall short of that, we have made positive headway on that. So just an FYI. The next one, 342 North Hicksville Road, we issued an enforcement order back several weeks ago. Unfortunately, I was reviewing it and I noticed a typo. A lot number was left off. I consulted town council and they said just reissue. So I reissued. That pushed the due date back to August 28th. Just an FYI for you folks.
Okay.
And the last update I have is, I don't know who's been watching, but Rodney LaBerge up on Old Fall River Road has been doing some cleanup work on his site under my approval. It's minimal work, but he got a little egregious and he started moving stones into the Paper Street right-of-way of Old Fall River Road. He's working with me. He's removed the stones. We have a reasonably communicative relationship with him, which is a damn sight better than we were 5 years ago when, we had to have police take us out on sites when they were involved. So just again, an FYI, that is moving forward in a more positive direction. So just so you know, if you see an activity there, we are aware of it. We are on top of it. And that's all I got.
Well, that was a lot. Thank you. I have nothing further. Does anyone else have anything they'd like to bring up?
Don, you had something about the schedule?
Yeah, an item for discussion. I know the schedule for the meetings is set for this year, but for years in the future, I believe that conservation commissions are required by law to meet once per month, and we're meeting twice per month, double the legal requirement. And it seems like there's an inordinate amount of continuations on cases from one biweekly meeting to the next. And today was another example of that, with an item being continued yet again because some material wasn't ready. And just to perhaps if we met once per month, there would be more of a sense of urgency from people bringing in applications, that they would have material ready to go, and not, right now it seems if we meet every 2 weeks, there's really no sense of urgency. If we don't get it done tonight, then 2 weeks from now, we're going to take it up again. And if the meeting was, or the hearings were once a month, people would then, I think, have a little more sense of urgency of, okay, we got to have our stuff together for this meeting, get it in on time, get it reviewed ahead of time, so that the project isn't put off for another at least a month. So, and I think it would be a better use of the commissioner's time too, to meet once a month. So
Well, we'd have to change our bylaw, Donald, but more to the point, our meetings would end sometime around midnight. Okay, if we were trying to do agendas for both what are now 2 meetings on one, we would have to, we couldn't tell people, well, I'm sorry, the agenda's full. We'd have to put them on. So we would be sitting here for the better part of 3 or 4 hours every night, every meeting. I think, though, your point is well taken. I listened to what you said, and I'm thinking maybe the thing we do is when people ask for continuances, they don't get one for the next meeting. It's at least 2 meetings hence. So if the reputation we have is you don't get the next meeting, it's not a 2-week continuance, it's a month-long continuance, I think you'll get the same effect, but without having to amend the bylaw and without having to have exorbitantly long meetings, because the agenda will have 10 items on it.
Well, if I could interject, the other issue is, Don, you've been with us since June. Summer is probably our slack time for applications. We had an agenda with 2 public hearings tonight. We had an agenda last time, I think it had 2 public hearings on it. Okay, when we get around October, November, we've got 8 public hearings. We've got 5 field trip reports. Okay, and again, it comes down to the amount of time we spend in the meetings, and then yours truly has to write the permits along with everything else. And writing 8 orders of conditions takes a lot of time. And writing determinations and COC determinations takes a lot of time to get it right. And if we're rushing, we're going to make mistakes, and mistakes make it longer. I think that this is not typical of our annual cycle. It is typical of our summer cycle because everybody's either vacationing or building what they got permitted back in the spring.
Okay. Well, what brought this to my attention was actually reviewing the films of the meetings for that Smith Street project, Smith Avenue project. Mm-hmm. And it seemed like not just that project, but all the others that were being heard during those meetings, there were just so many continuances. It was almost a regular thing. Just everything was continued.
we're also suffering from a generational situation. Okay, I've been in this business for 40 years as a consultant, as a regulator, and all of that. And the people who really know how to do the work are retiring. And there's not a lot of mentorship of the younger people coming into the business. These filings are not great coming in the door. So that we're going to see more continuances than we have in the past because the quality of work just is not there. It's just not there. And the regulations are getting more stringent. The regulations are demanding more quality, and we're getting less quality. So it's a juggling act.
It's also very difficult, as you probably heard, relative to the coastal specialist. We have a situation where, much like your primary care physicians, there are not enough engineers to go around. Okay, so when people come to see me sometimes and they have something that's urgent, and I tell them it's going to take at least 30 to 45 days for an engineer to even begin your project, they're incredulous. They say, but I'll pay. I said, of course you're going to pay. They're not going to do it for free. But they're so busy, they don't need your business. They're not looking for work. It just comes. So we're in that unfortunate scenario too. So when somebody says, I've been having a hell of a time. Now, I'm not saying, for instance, the Smith Avenue was accurate, but when people say, I've tried to get people to come out, and here we are a month later and they still haven't had an engineer that's accepted an engagement, that doesn't stun me. It used to. In the old days, I would be stunned, but not anymore. I mean, even with a decent sized project, there are engineers, I'm just too busy. If you can wait a couple months, I'll be happy to do it, but you got to be able to wait a couple months. I got a backlog. And so I'm willing to give somebody the benefit of the doubt, but to Mark's point, we're very seldom given applications and plans that right out of the box we can vote on. Most of the time they're deficient. Okay, so we're giving out, when we give a continuance, it's like giving an incomplete. Teacher gives you a chance to make it up. We got two choices. We can do the continuances. Well, we have three really, but the third I don't agree on. We have three choices. We could give a continuance, which is what we've done. We can vote to deny because the plans were woeful, in which case we're probably also telegraphing a malpractice claim, or we can vote to approve, even though we know we don't have enough information. I mean, those are our three choices. We've chosen the option to continue. And in some cases, I think we've been overly generous in the continuances to the point where we've required the applicants to re-notify the abutters, because it's been so long since the original hearing date that perhaps anybody who was interested forgot about it. But in any event, your point isn't a bad one. And I think as you were talking, I was thinking, well, how do we achieve this without a massive upheaval to our bylaw and likely to have agendas that we just can't handle? Because I'm usually asleep by 11 o'clock. So if we're still here at a meeting, I'm probably having toothpicks holding my eyelids open. So how do we do that? And I think one of the ways to do it is to not make the continuance so quick so that people have no benefit to just wasting our time. If it costs you a month and you've got to explain to your client why it's a month, because I didn't have everything in on time, that's a pretty embarrassing discussion to have, I would think.
Right. Whatever we can do to avoid the continuances, or if there are new people bringing applications, if Mark, if there's anything you can do to kind of guide them through what is needed so that we don't have inadequate applications to begin with.
Well, I'll tell you what, I mean, here's the biggest problem. Mark and Eduardo are available for, initial pre-submittal review and then further on. But the one thing we have to be careful of is having people rely on our staff to be the design team. We're not here to design somebody's project. We're here to either approve it or disapprove it. So if somebody comes in with a pretty lacking plan and say, here, help me to build this, that's not appropriate. Okay. That's abusing our staff. We're not designing somebody's project for them.
No, right.
And if they don't know what the regulations are, or they don't know what the performance standards are, they should have declined the work.
If I could jump in here, because I do have an issue with the case that Don raised this evening. We spent a lot of time revising the bylaw, and we put in continuance clauses that we have absolutely not abided by in that case. That case has been deficient for 8 months. In my opinion, and we've been overly generous, a decision should have been made, maybe not in favor of the applicant, but a decision should have been made based on the information we had. Case in point, we want our coastal geologist to review this. I was talking about a coastal geologist in February. Now, I know people are busy, but I got a call last week from somebody who was inquiring about that project. In month 8?
Yeah, I don't want to be talking about that project.
No, I know,
We've
but I
already-
mean,
we've already allowed
speaking-
the applicant's professional to leave, and we've continued it. So I think we would be procedurally on shaky grounds to be talking about that project.
I
To your
just think
point,
we've been overly generous on that.
have we avoided following scrupulously our own rules regarding continuances? Yes, we have, and maybe we shouldn't, and maybe we shouldn't in the future. We just refer to the bylaw and say, "This is it. Voting up and down. You're tough luck. You didn't get your stuff in on time." I mean, we can do that, all right, and maybe we should.
We should do that.
That's another thing we can do. But I think we have to give fair warning. And I would suggest that, we've already done that with the bylaw, but perhaps we've cut against it by people saying, well, that's their bylaw, but they never really do it.
Well, in the past, Mike, we have said we're going to continue and this is the last time. And then something comes up and we continue it again. And we've given them fair warning. I think we debated continuances in the bylaw revision. And I think we came to, an agreeable point. We have to enforce that. That's what we got.
And I'm okay with that. And let's start doing
The
it.
bylaw says that's what we should be doing. If it ain't good enough, and I forget what it was, 2 continuances or 3 continuances off the top of my head. If it ain't good enough by the 3rd, that's it, guys. Sorry.
Well, you know what I'd like?
Withdraw without prejudice and try again.
I'm going to recommend that what I do as part of my little introduction, I'm going to take a copy of the bylaw regarding continuances and I'm going to read it and say, guys, these are the rules on continuances. And when people ask for continuances by email, send them back a copy of that. Say, we're going to abide by this is the bylaw. If you said that you were in a car accident, I get it. I think I'll make an exception. But not having, I agree. We give these out too plentifully, and I'm a culprit. All right. So mea culpa there. Okay. But we can do 2 things to try to ameliorate what Donald perceives, and I don't think wrongfully perceives, that it's no big deal if you're not ready because we'll give you 2 weeks later, you'll get to be ready. So it's like giving you the, okay, the test was scheduled for today, but we'll let you take it 2 weeks from now because you didn't study for it. Okay. You know what I mean? That's not really what we try to do, but I guess that's what's been happening. So we can do 2 things: enforce our bylaw, and then the continuance is not for the following meeting, it's for the second meeting following. So that gives you the full month. And we don't need a month. Nope, that's the earliest you can have it. We cannot continue you to the next meeting. We don't continue anybody to the next meeting. And that way, it poses the imposition that you were thinking of with the once a month meeting, which is if you don't have your case ready to go, it's a month before you get back here. And I think that'll start getting people's attention together with an implementation of the bylaw that says we just aren't giving out continuances after, I think it was 3. I got to look at it now, but I forgot what we said. And that's probably why I give them out so freely, because I forgot what we said. But we debated that. We kicked it around and we agreed on it. So damn it, we should enforce it. There's rules in place and we should use them.
I think Nat just put up a chat, and I think he
I
took the
copied what I
bylaw
understand
language.
to be the language. I pulled from the bylaw on the website. This is what I understand the language to be that we added, which is basically that it should be closed within 60 days of it originally opening, yet we have full discretion to extend that deadline.
Okay.
Upon written request of the applicant.
Well,
Correct.
in this instance, we had a written request, but we're so far past 60 days. And we've done that for others. So I think we have to be stricter. And what I would suggest is when we have somebody who's here, they're usually at that point seeking a second continuance at that point, normally. But I think we'd say, wait a minute, that would be beyond the 60 days. We can't grant the continuance. Or we could, but we're not likely to grant it. You better have a really good reason. Those are the kind of things that could possibly be said. I will tell you, I also like the idea of never giving a continuance for the very next meeting. Make it at least a month later. And that will then discourage people from trying to get continuances because they're going to say, now I've got to tell the client I can't get back in for a month. And that isn't an easy discussion, believe me. That is not an easy discussion.
I do think the language is a little challenging because if we start making decisions on who does and does not get a continuance, given there's no proper language on what that would require beyond just our sole discretion, it kind of opens us up to someone accusing us of being preferential, discriminatory to somebody, right? If we're not super iron tight about what constitutes a continuance.
Yeah, and there's some folks who have abused us in
Sure.
terms of our leniency. For the most part, they've been rather few in who they are. Not few in the number of matters before us, but few in who they are. Most of the people have asked for continuances to make adjustments to the plans in accordance with what they've heard during the colloquy of the meeting. And so
Right.
that's a sort of legitimate request in my view, because we want the plan to reflect what's being approved and not just to say, well, that plan, but with all these other things that aren't on the plan. So I'm inclined to give those. But if the applicant's continually seeking continuances because, well, we haven't heard from planning board. Oh, we haven't heard from Board of Health yet. I'm not as moved by that. You should have sequenced this correctly. Okay. And why put us in as a bookmarker and waste our time? It takes me time just to read the bloody thing. Right. And then to get the motion to waive the reading. And then we want a continuance. So it's like, no. If it's a matter of sequencing, if it's a matter of, well, a person that, you told us we should have 3 months ago, we're still looking for it. Come on, man. I mean, I know engineers are busy, but you get somebody within 3 months. You get somebody within 30, 45 days. So but I'm hearing what you're saying, Nat. We don't have any. Maybe we missed it, but I think it was purposeful. We left it very vague, but you're right. We would then open ourselves up to somebody saying, but you gave Mr. Smith 3 continuances. This is only my second one I'm asking for. So,
Well, you have to have a reason for sole discretion.
They do
I mean,
have, there should be some reasons
That's sole discretion, I realize is vague. It's deliberately vague to allow you that rare opportunity. But when you do it, you better have a good reason for it. It just can't be, out of convenience. Oh, I didn't get to it. That's not a
Well,
reason for a
as
continuance.
Richard will attest, in the court system, usually, if everyone is doing their best, the courts are normally willing to give you a continuance, a single continuance. After that, you better really have an awfully good reason why you need another one. And the courts may not grant it. Okay. They don't have to grant you the first one, but the practice is usually, unless there's strenuous objection, they're going to grant the first and can request for continuance. You'll get it. Now, I'm not saying we put that in there, but it just seems to me that the threshold for getting a continuance would be weaker if the party was asking for the first time. But after that, it's like, come on, how much more waiting do we have to do for you to get everything you need to get? And oh, by the way, it goes back to what I said earlier. I don't want our staff to be the design team. And if your plans were that inadequate, we shouldn't be the ones who fill in all the gaps to make them adequate. I mean, that's just not our role. And so, we're not getting paid professional fees to do it. And frankly, there's liability attended to that. So it just seems to me, as Mark said, we have folks that are now stretching out, doing things that might be over their head, and they're expecting folks like Mark and Eduardo to help them out. And that's really not their role. Okay. They're not the unpaid advisors on the design team, in my view. And that's what people are looking for. And you should have your work done. That's it.
Mark, you should charge an hourly rate.
I mean, the town, if
They
it
can't afford me, James.
That can't
If
sound
I
like
gave them
you.
my hourly rate that I had when I was a
Good,
consultant, they
good.
wouldn't be able to afford me.
Yeah, you don't
That's
have to
the
work
answer I
a couple
like.
hours a day, Mark. You'd be in good standing. But I mean, I just take that a little bit of umbrage when that is occurring, because I feel like, do your work. And it goes back to even things that I have in my own office. If somebody comes and asks me for help, and the same question, let's see what you've done. And if the answer is I've Googled it, get back to work. If they come to me and show me all their work, I'll help them. But damn it, do your own work. I'm an old fart. I'm going to be gone. You can't rely on me to do your work. It doesn't play out in my view. And I didn't learn because people did it for me. I learned because I did it. Made mistakes along the way too, by the way. Got my butt kicked at times, but you know what? That's how you learn.
That's how you learn.
Yeah, that's how you learn. You don't make that same mistake again, believe me. And so, I just look at it in terms of that's what we've got going on. And I'm not suggesting any one particular person, but I've noticed it. And I've noticed it not just from the commission. I've noticed it being part of clients' design team and looking at things and saying, this looks half-assed. And I'm not an engineer. And it's like, what is this? And sometimes it is. Okay. It's just not completely thought out. And that's lack of experience, I think. Perhaps even being overworked, overburdened, trying to do too many things at once, and figuring somebody else will do the heavy lifting and give it some thought, which I won't. And I don't think, Mark, you should, and I don't think Eduardo should. We're not in that business.
Well, the town's not covered for us to do that kind of stuff.
We don't, and
No.
and it's not right.
If they do what we tell them to do and it goes bad, the town of Dartmouth is liable.
To me, somebody says, I want to do it. I want to do A, B, and C. And then they try to convince you why A, B, and C meet the performance regs. And you say, I'm not satisfied. Here's why. Then they have to go back to the drawing board and figure out how they can satisfy you. It's not up to you to tell them what to do to satisfy you. Here's how you can change your plan so that I'm satisfied. No, you change the plan, not me. It's not my plan. I'm just telling you, after reviewing your plan, I'm not satisfied. And here's my problems, A, B, and C. Solve those problems, come back to me when you're done. But what happens is the client saying, when are we going to get before the commission? When are we going to get before the planning board? And these half-baked plans come before us because they want to tell the client, hey, I met the deadline. Yeah, with something that couldn't possibly be approved. I mean, am I wrong, Mark?
No.
So,
And we're seeing more of it.
a lot more of it, because the guys that used to be before us continually knew what to do. They knew what was expected of them before they filed. And we mostly got ones and dones, as I call them. Their plans were well thought out. They brought them in before submittal, discussed it with either Mike or Mark, whoever was there at the time, made their adjustments, submitted the plans, and basically staff's comments were positive. Plan gets approved. Order of conditions issues. One and done. I think that better serves the clients, not just in terms of timing, but cost. Because every time a professional appears before us, there's a bill to the client. And if they're before us 8 times, that's 8 bills. I mean, if I'm a client, I'm going to say, is there some time between now and death you're going to get this done? I mean, it's like, what's taking so long? Why can't this get approved? Anyway, maybe
But whatever people can do to think about how we can minimize the continuances, that would be helpful if people can just think about that.
Yeah, well, I'm not disagreeing with you, Donald, and I for one am willing to implement no continuances to the next meeting. It's the second meeting. That way, it's a 1-month hiatus, which also gives them even less excuse after a month to say they're not ready, because that means they didn't get started until the month was almost up.
My recommendation is to enforce the bylaw as we debated it and approved it and revised it not 2 years ago. Because I think we had this very same discussion back then. We put some time constraints in it. We need to stick to that. Regardless, there may be special circumstances where we don't follow the numerical requirements and we use our sole discretion, but we better be certain of it when we do it. And that's how I think we resolve the issue. 8, 9, 10 continuances are not fun. I'm tired of writing the same thing over and over again when my initial comments aren't filed. But anyway.
So, all right. I mean, I don't care, but I think your point is well taken, Donald. It's an observation that I think needed to be stated tonight. And I'm in agreement that we need to implement something, and whether it's strict implementation of our bylaw, despite the fact we have absolute discretion and that could be dangerous. We got to do something, because we don't help ourselves if we allow continuances easily. And we just make it so we know where we're going to waste time at some of these meetings. My 2 cents.
Richard, you're muted. Richard, you're muted.
I think he's trying to unmute himself. Either that or he's got hand signals.
I think, Mike, if in fact you do that and continue it for a month, let's see if the number of frequency for requests for continuances goes down, then the proof will be in the pudding. So why do we?
Well, I think it's a combination of what Mark said and maybe what I said, but I think we already have a cutoff date, but then I think we should absolutely make it so that our continuation doesn't make it easy for the applicant. Only had to wait 2 weeks. No, you're going to wait 4 weeks. It makes it more imperative you get it done correctly out of the box and not just count on, I got an extra 2 weeks.
I don't want to belabor this, but I think we should just collectively read the bylaws before we make any decisions, because I just was looking at the previous provision within it, and it just states that the commission has the authority to continue an open public hearing to the next regularly scheduled meeting. So if we feel that binds us to the next meeting rather than the following meeting, we should just be in agreement, I think.
Yeah, that's a good point. I think the interpretation, if you gave it its common sense interpretation, is the very next meeting. But we've given people longer because they knew they couldn't get the job done. Maybe I don't want to go back to the bylaw though. That was a tedious process.
Agreed.
No, I think we implement the bylaw as it's written. And where we have sole discretion, we better have a darn good reason why we used it. That's,
Well, we do have that deadline, so it's 60 days from the date. I guess that still gives them the opportunity for a couple of continuances, I guess. I'm not sure. What's I don't want to.
Directly gives them 3 continuances, right? Maybe.
Yeah, I mean, I'm thinking out loud though. Somebody puts in their application, they get their public hearing. They might be they might be able to squeeze in 3 continuances if they're all 2 weeks, but boy, that's about it. Then you're going to be at the 60 days, aren't you?
Yeah.
I think Mark's right. Enforce the bylaw as written.
let's find out where the pitfalls are, if there are any.
Yeah, I mean, I got to tell you, I think and maybe in the colloquy, Mark, you have with the engineers when they come in before submittal or whatever, just let them know that we're really going to adhere to the bylaw, and it's not going to be as easy to get a continuance. It's by the way, just to give them a little heads up. I don't like to put a professional in a situation where they're taken by surprise, because they've told their clients this is what to expect. And when you take them by surprise, then the client says, "You didn't know that? Why didn't you know that?" I don't want to put them in that boat. So I'd give them fair warning. We can do it in the colloquy when they come into file. And if there isn't any, there isn't any. Then just say, my point will be, well, it's in the bylaw. It's in our bylaw.
If you want, we can public notice it on the webpage too.
I think that's a good idea. I think that's a very good idea. Just put it on the.
I'll write some draft language and I'll run it by you.
Yeah, I think that's a very good idea, Mark. I don't want to have anybody say, "Why didn't you tell me?" I feel like an idiot now.
Mhm.
But I think, as a result of Donald, your observation, I think we're going to be more diligent about enforcing our own rules, and that should alleviate the problem.
If we're done with this one, I just was thinking, I had asked for a vote in support of the issuance of the 98 McCabe Street enforcement order, and I don't think we did that.
You're right. We didn't get to that.
Could I ask for a vote?
No,
Could
you've
I ask
already
for a
issued
vote
the order,
again?
but I'll say it's already gone out, right?
Yeah, you're just verifying the fact that you are aware that I did that.
I'll entertain a motion that we reiterate support that the Environmental Affairs Coordinator issued the enforcement order on 98 McCabe Street violations.
So moved.
Second.
We have a seconded motion on the floor. We'll do a roll call vote. Megan?
Yes.
Donald?
Yes.
Nat?
Yes.
Richard?
Yep.
James?
Yes.
My vote is yes. That motion passes unanimously. And I
Thank
put
you.
in there reiterate. So, this is not like we approved it after the fact. We were in accord with what you did. Now we're just giving it a.
Yep.
I love this term that we're giving it a nunc pro tunc blessing. How's that, Richard?
That's exactly what I was asking
I
for.
haven't heard that in years, Mike.
I think we're all set.
right. So I have nothing further to add, so I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second,
A seconded motion, roll call vote. James,
yes.
Richard,
Yes.
Nat,
Yes.
Megan,
Yes.
Donald.
Yes.
My vote is yes. Meeting adjourned.